Wow, how you guys doing? I'm Ron from Y'all 1067. Today, I introed you the other day and I said, and I had this long list of things, and I said, your resume, what you are, what you do is longer than a book. And I just looked at it again. Actress, playwright, screenwriter, professor, songwriter, author, caretaker. It goes on and on and on. Lori Fischer, welcome into Y'all 1067.
I'm so happy to be a part of the Y'all 106.7 family.
How do you even have time to come and see us? This is quite the list of accomplishments, but also a lot of commitments. You've got a lot going on.
I do, but I always have time to come see you.
I appreciate that.
Always, you and Taylor. I just compartmentalize well. The caregiving is a big part of what I do. I moved here. I was living in New York for years, moved there to be an actor, and became then a playwright actor, and then went to grad school at NYU. Well, so then I became a confident playwright, basically. And but before I even went to NYU, I had a musical called Barbara's Blue Kitchen, set in Watertown, Tennessee. Produced in 2015 at Cumberland County Playhouse, also produced off-Broadway in New York.
Right.
And so I was writing that thing for years. And so I had that produced and published actually even before I was in grad school. And then in 2019, I just had been praying for a couple years. My mom had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I just felt like the Lord was saying, go to Nashville and take care of your favorite two seniors. So I came here. So that's a big part of what I do. But I have to write. I process life through writing. And so some would call me prolific. Mainly I just have to write. So, and I just stay on it. And once I'm writing something, I don't give up until I come to a draft that I think is the draft.
So what is your favorite part about what you're doing right now? I mean, because there is a lot. I mean, obviously taking care of your parents is so important, but you've kind of got this project that's front and center that we're going to talk about too. So that's got to be important to you for this moment.
Oh, I'm so excited. So I decided to self-produce my musical, The Sparkley Clean Funeral Singers. It's a comedy. It's a clean comedy. And it's definitely, if any of your listeners come, I can guarantee at least one belly laugh, if not maybe 10. So maybe more. But I decided to self-produce it, so I cast some really great actors. Actually, one of the actresses is Lauren Braddock Havey, daughter of Bobby Braddock, who wrote, as you know, Divorce, and He Stopped Loving Her Today. And for those of you that don't know me, my dad is Bobby Fischer, who wrote Goodbye Says It All and You Lie by Reba. And so she and I had been talking, and I just met her, and I was talking about the show, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I want us to be on stage together. And it feels great. Both of our dads are named Bobby. They both had George Jones cuts. They're both born on August 5th.
Wow.
And so we were like, let's do this.
So tell us, it's going to be at the Darkhorse Theater, correct?
Yeah. And I also don't want to forget to mention Alan Lee, known Nashville actor, is also in it, and Robbie Coles. He acts a lot with 615, Theater 615, very funny and wonderful actors as well. So we're going to be at the Darkhorse Theater the 13th. We open this Thursday. And actually Thursday is a half-price ticket. So if anybody wants to come on Thursday, all tickets are half price. And then we run through the 22nd. We take the 17th and 18th off, that Monday and Tuesday, but we have 7:30 shows every night, and we have 2:30 matinees this coming Saturday and Sunday, and then next Saturday, the 22nd.
So when you started thinking, okay, I'm just going to do this, I just really want this to happen, what was the process like for you to put this all together? I mean, you've been off Broadway, you've done so much, but to do it here in Nashville.
Well, first of all, the Darkhorse Theater is this great space on Charlotte, 4610 Charlotte. And the woman that runs it, Shannon, is fabulous. And so it feels like a just great, easygoing thing. I just rented the theater and I said, I'm going to do this. And then I asked a friend from, I knew him originally from New York, but he actually moved to Ohio also to caregive his parents. And so he still lives there and teaches. And so his name's David Hemsley Caldwell. And so I asked him if he would direct. He said yes. And then I started piecing together a cast. I got an audition from Alan. It was fabulous. Saw Robbie in a show, and he was hilarious. So he auditioned, but I already knew I wanted him in it. Right. And Lauren and I had already been talking, and Lauren and I did a reading of it in the early summer that went really well. And in fact, the show, people were laughing so hard at one point, I had to pinch myself so I wouldn't break character. So I put that together and hired, great sound designer and great lighting designer, and here we are.
And here you are. Yeah. So let's go back a little bit farther and talk about some of the other productions that you've been involved with, because, you've got quite the resume there as well.
Well, I moved to New York to be an actor.
Right.
And my first job was to be in this musical Slasher, the splatter rock musical. So that was
the classic.
Yes, the classic. Yeah. I moved there and I just started auditioning right away. And somewhere in that process, I just saw a show that I thought, you know what? I'm tired of waiting for other people to give me work. I want to provide my own work. So I wrote a collection of monologues that I called Barbara's Blue Kitchen. And then I realized it was more of a musical, so I started writing music to go with it. And because my dad is my dad, songwriting was always around in the house. My dad would line us up like little ducklings on the couch and play us his new songs, So I just started writing when I was in college, basically. Somebody broke my heart. I started writing a song,
Sure.
that kind of thing. And so I started writing this musical, and then I did readings of it all over the place. And then the Adirondack Theater Festival produced it. Then Cincinnati Playhouse produced it. And I actually had this agent at the time. She was like, Lori, when will you stop talking about Barbara's Blue Kitchen? And I was like, when it's off Broadway.
Right.
And I did this reading, and this woman that was a producer of the Lambs Theater, Carolyn Rossi Copeland, she said, I will put in a third. And this other guy that had seen it, that didn't know me, but he said, I'll put in a third. And then she looked at me and she said, if you can raise a third of the money in 2 weeks, you'll have an off-Broadway show. And I didn't know what to do. So I just started talking to people about it. And people would circle back to me and said, I'll put $5,000 in. I'll put $10,000 in. And I was like, by the end of 2 weeks, I walked into her office and she looked kind of sad, like, how'd it go?
Oh,
and I was like, I did it. She was like, we're going off Broadway.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
And so I did that, and then Samuel French came. Samuel French is now Concord Theatricals.
Yes.
And so then they published it. And then, like I said, it got done at Cumberland County Playhouse. They've also produced the Sparkley Clean Funeral Singers. They did, that I got to be in. Amazing production. They do such great work there. And then Sparkley also got produced in Albany, New York at Capitol Rep. And then it's gotten produced by other people, other casts around the nation. It's published and, just like Barbara's Blue. So
that's amazing.
And then I was off Broadway with a musical called Cowgirls that was a great musical. I had to learn to play cello. It was quite the thing. So,
how did you learn to play cello? You just pick it up and learn.
This is where it's handy to be a Nashville native.
It is.
Because I lived in New York, but I was from Nashville. First of all, I said, do they know I've never touched a cello? Yeah. My agent was like, but you play guitar. And I was like, not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
And so when I got there, I said, I need to fret the cello. So they got me some black, like electrical tape. Mm-hmm. And then this woman in the cast, who I knew if I was out of pitch, she'd be like, give me, crap. So I was like, you fret it. So she fretted it for me. And then I asked this other musical director to turn the entire sonata into the Nashville number system.
Okay.
So I knew, smart. Like, if I'm trying to figure out, am I on an A flat here? By the time I'm thinking that, they'll be past that measure. Yeah. But if I'm doing the Nashville number system, You'll be all right. I'll be all right. And they had this cellist, he was a cellist, a cello teacher, and he was like, you don't know this because you are just doing it, but you have natural bowing technique. He's like, I have no idea how you're doing this. That's like one of the hardest things to learn, but you're just doing it. And I was like, well, I just watched some, like any actor. I was like, I just watched some cello players, and I'm just trying to look like them.
Sometimes if you don't know it's hard, you don't know it's hard.
Exactly. And I just didn't know. And so I was like, well, good to know. And so, but I was able to do it. And when you listen to the cast recording, it sounds actually good. Actually good.
That's amazing. So you've also done a lot of film. I mean,
yes.
So this is another part of Lori.
Yeah. So I was writing some short. So, the great thing about the NYU grad program is that they teach you television writing, screenwriting, and playwriting. And so I started writing these short films and getting some produced. And then I got asked, well, there's this great director named Sean Gannett, and we saw each other's work. And so I pitched him this movie of mine called Dottie's Thanksgiving Pickle. Now, I do want to warn people that one does drop the F-bomb. So
that's all right.
To be honest, if I could do that movie over, I would switch all the F-bombs with fake cuss words because it's a really funny, thing. But it's about a woman who has an antagonistic relationship with her frozen turkey for Thanksgiving. And Olympia Dukakis is in it, Nancy Opel, who's famous in New York. Yes. And anyway, he made that, but then he got asked to direct a feature film feature film. And what they had a group of actors, and so they brought me on to write a feature for this group of actors. And so I wrote a film called Chasing Taste. It's a romantic comedy about a food critic who loses his sense of taste and smell. So that's all I'll say. But anyway, as I was writing that, my dad was friends with Phil Vassar. And so I wrote this DJ role. And I just called him. I was like, would you ever want to be in a movie? I wrote this role, and it's really you. And so he's in my feature film. He's fabulous, as he is with everything.
Right.
And then one of our family friend, but one of my dad's closest friends, is Freddie Weller, also amazing songwriter.
Right.
And so, in fact, he's the one that wrote the George Jones song, The Writing on the Wall, with my dad. Right. And so, but they lost their son, and Freddie and Pippi Weller. And I just observed them and just the heartbreak of it. And I wrote this film called I Only Miss You When I'm Breathing. And and so I asked Phil to be one of the leads in that film. And I co-star in it with him, and we're the couple that loses their son. And so it really is an homage to their son, Brandon, right. Just as a way. In fact, we filmed using some of Brandon's actual clothes. So like there's this moment where I go into the closet and I smell the son's clothing, and I just felt Brandon with us while we were filming, and so I did that. And then recently I wrote a film called Kindness Matters. Right. And I had this acting student named Dallas at Lipscomb, where I teach at Lipscomb, and I also teach an online writing great characters class through NYU. And but Dallas has just looked great on film. All he wants to do is act. And so I just called his dad, Jeremy, and I said, let's put him in a film. And so he put in some of the money, and then I was able to raise, a lot more because right. it ended up, I thought what he was putting in would cover it, but then I realized I needed way more.
Sure.
And so, but thankfully people contributed. And so I made this short film called Kindness Matters. And Phil just rules the day in that film. And it's been in a ton of film festivals. In fact, I found out 2 days ago, it's a semifinalist for the Nashville Independent Filmmakers Festival.
Oh, so
cool. We'll see if we get in, but it's a semifinalist, which I feel great about.
Yeah. And you've written a couple books.
Yes. So I have two published musicals. One is the Sparkley Clean Funeral Singers, available on Concord Theatricals, and one, Barbara's Blue Kitchen. Right. And then recently I also wrote a caregiving tips and stories book that's available on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's really a collection of stories about me going through all the medical things that I've gone through with my parents. And I just decided to write a book because I was like, maybe somebody else is starting out on a caregiving journey, and maybe something in the book will be insightful or helpful to them. I mean, there's just certain things that you learn that you don't learn until you're in the weeds with it all. And so I wrote that. Obviously I'm not a doctor or anything, so I'm not trying to give medical advice, but I'm trying to just say, here's some encouragement.
And it's very good common sense knowledge, but it's also stuff that you've went through and experienced. Yeah. That, again, if you've not been in that situation, but you may be in that situation, it's kind of, it's giving you a little armor, protecting you a little bit, and giving you some insight to maybe how to handle some of these situations. And honestly, in the book, you talk about a couple situations where if you hadn't have acted quickly, the outcome might not have been, positive.
Yeah. My dad had a 99% blockage heart attack. And now, normally you should always call an ambulance.
Right.
But I biked all the time in New York, and he was leaning on the car, and my gut instinct was my dad's dying. Yeah. And he was, and it was pre-pandemic Nashville traffic. And so I said, get in. And so I got him there in 7 minutes.
Right.
And there's just a thing when you have bicycled in New York, you have instincts like, just go, that car's not moving. I mean, I wasn't like racing in front of people, but I might have run a few lights. So, I mean,
as everyone would, absolutely.
They were yellow, but still. But got him there, and Dr. Rankin, who is with Franklin Hart, amazing doctor, put 2 stents in, and he did come out, and he said, you saved his life.
That's amazing. And
so it was that, and just recently my mom was in the ICU, so please, prayers for my mom's continued health and healing, but she's out now and better. But I do think if recently I hadn't taken her to the ICU, that we probably would be having a different conversation right now. The book also talks about being creative or nurturing yourself as a caregiver, as you know, because you kindly read it, but of just how important it is to keep your own cup full as a caregiver so that you're not giving from an empty place. And so I talk a lot about just different artistic things I've done. It's one of the reasons I'm producing Sparkley, because it's a way to fill my own cup and have joy, because I love singing and I love performing and I love, sharing laughs with people.
But I think people forget that. I mean, people get, I don't want to say locked into this tunnel vision of I'm taking care of my parents or I'm taking care of my loved one and that's my role and it's 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can't do that. You have to be able to step back at times. And obviously you make arrangements where you can step away from time to time. Mm-hmm. You have someone take care of them. You have someone that's there in their lives. But if you don't take care of yourself, that self-care has got to kind of come first sometimes.
It absolutely does. And I always take, one day off a week so that I can just have a day of complete writing and just literally refilling my cup time.
Yeah.
And I also have a chapter in the book that's just simply called Screaming into an Empty Room.
Right.
Because, I'm taking care of my parents, and let's be honest, our parents created all of our triggers. And, I mean, thankfully, I really like my parents as well as love them. But, there are moments where I just get frustrated, and I'll just go into an empty room and let out a big scream. And it just takes the lid off the pressure, like a boiling pot of water, and then I can go back in and just be, patient and kind and the things you want to be with these people you love, But yeah, like the other day, I came home and it was 2 hours past when my mom should have taken one of her Parkinson's pills. And I didn't go into a room that day, but in my mind, I was like, I'm walking into a room right now and screaming. Because of course, you have to take those pills on time. And I was like,
not a good thing. Well, let's circle back. How do people get tickets if they want to come to the musical?
Awesome. Let's see. Well, they can go to Eventbrite and just type in the Sparkley Clean Funeral Singers. And I do spell Sparkley with an EY instead of just a Y, mainly because I just like the way it looks. So they can type that into Eventbrite, and Sparkley will come up, and all the dates will be there, and you can buy tickets. And because you're 106.7 listeners, I created a code for you
awesome.
Called FRIEND. If you just type in the word FRIEND, you'll get a 30% off.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And if you want to go on opening night, you can type in the word industry and get half off. But you can also show up at the door and pay either cash or Venmo. You can. I'll have my Venmo number there too.
Awesome. And it's a nice long run, so there's no excuse that you can't get that date, can't get this date, because you've got like a nice week and a half basically that you can catch a show. You can catch an afternoon performance or an evening performance. Yeah. So it's going to be great.
Especially like a lot of times people don't come on Wednesdays, and so if anybody wants to come, not this Wednesday, but a week from this Wednesday, that'd be great. Because I planned a Wednesday show, and then I was, somebody very wiser on what works in Nashville said a lot of people don't come on Wednesdays. So
it's a hard day.
It's a hard day. So I'm hoping, but any day anyone comes, I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, best of luck. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to come and see it. I know Taylor wants to come and see it.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun. We're just going to have a great time. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us. As
You're
always,
welcome.
For making a little sliver of time in your busy day. I don't know how you do it all. I really am impressed. So, but thanks again for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you and 106.7.